Imagine for a moment that you are standing in the year 50,000 BCE. There are no cities, no writing, no metals, no wheels, no domesticated animals except the dog that is trotting beside you. You own nothing except the spear in your hand, the clothes on your back, and the knowledge in your head. By every modern metric, you are the poorest human who has ever lived. Yet in 1,000 subtle, profound, and almost completely forgotten ways, you possess advantages so enormous that the richest billionaire alive today would secretly envy you. These are not the advantages we usually talk about. No romantic nonsense about living in harmony with nature or noble savages. These are hard, measurable, biological, cognitive, social, and ecological edges that our Paleolithic and Mesolithic ancestors enjoyed every single day. Edges that began to disappear the moment we invented farming and have been eroding ever since. Today I am going to walk you through every single one of those hidden advantages, using the latest archaeology, anthropology, genetics, and biomechanics. By the end you will understand why, in many crucial respects, the average forager walking the African savanna or the European tundra 20,000 years ago was better equipped for a rich, long, healthy, and meaningful human life than we are today. Let us begin with the body. The first hidden advantage is that ancient humans were, without exaggeration, physical supermen and superwomen compared to us. Examine the skeletal remains from the Upper Paleolithic, Gravettian, Magdalenian, Epigravettian cultures, and you will see something astonishing things. The average Cro-Magnon male had a humerus upper arm bony with cortical thickness rivaling that of a modern champion weightlifter. The attachment sites for the deltoids, pectorals, and latissimus dorsi are so pronounced that when anatomists first studied them in the 19th century, they assumed these people must have been pathological, deformed by constant heavy labor. We now know they were simply normal. A 2017 study in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences compared the lower limb bones of prehistoric foragers with those of modern varsity athletes. The foragers won. Their femurs and tibias showed greater bending strength than those of Cambridge rowers or runners. Another study of Ice Age Europeans found that the average male had grip strength estimated at over 550 newtons, stronger than almost any living person who is not a professional arm wrestler. This was not the result of some genetic super race. It was the result of a life that required constant, varied, full body loading from infancy. Children learned to walk by chasing goats across uneven terrain, not by cruising along flat floors in walkers. Adolescents learned to throw spears accurately at 40 meters. Try that after a lifetime of keyboards and steering wheels. Adults routinely carried 50-80 cuz carcasses for kilometers without backpacks, using only a forehead tumpline that distributed weight across the skeleton in ways modern ergonomists still struggle to replicate. And because movement patterns were endlessly diverse, climbing, crawling, sprinting, lifting, throwing, balancing on logs to cross rivers, their bodies developed perfect proprioception and almost injury-proof joints. Modern orthopedic surgeons who study hunter-gatherer skeletons regularly remark that they see almost no osteoarthritis until extreme old age, and even then it is mild. Compare that to the epidemic of knee and hip replacements in people in their 50s today. They did not functional fitness every day, but they did not call it that. They simply survived. The second hidden advantage is diet and metabolism. We have been told that prehistoric people were perpetually on the edge of starvation. The opposite is closer to the truth. Ethnographic studies of the few remaining forager groups, the Hadza of Tanzania, the Kongsan of the Kalahari, the Hui of Venezuela, show that they secure more calories per hour of effort than traditional farmers do, and with far greater nutritional quality. A single Hadza hunter can obtain 3,000 to 5,000 cal in a few hours by tracking and killing a large antelope, then spends the next several days resting while the women gather tubers and fruits that require minimal processing. But the real advantage was nutrient density. A 1/3 portion of wild elk contains 10 times the omega-3, 4 times the vitamin E, and vastly more conjugated linoleic acid than grain-fed beef. Organs were prized: liver, brain, bone marrow, thyroid, spleen, kidneys. Every part of the animal modern people throw away was, to them, the choicest food. 150g serving of caribou liver supplies more bioavailable vitamin A, B12, iron, zinc, and copper than a month of typical Western multivitamins. Plants were even more impressive. Foragers consumed 100-200 wild plant species annually. Modern supermarkets offer perhaps 40, most of them domesticated breeds, selected for shelf life rather than nutrition. Wild dandelion greens have 7 times the vitamin K, 5 times the vitamin E, and twice the calcium of spinach. Baobab fruit has 6 times the vitamin C of oranges. The list is almost endless. Carbohydrate intake varied seasonally. But when they did eat carbs, they were almost entirely slow digesting. Fiber, rich, polyphenol-loaded roots, fruits, and honey, foods that produce gentle blood sugar curves and feed a diverse gut microbiome. The Hadza microbiome contains roughly twice as many species as the average Americans, and that diversity is strongly linked to leanness, low inflammation, and robust immunity. They also practiced involuntary intermittent fasting, sometimes days passed between big kills. Their bodies therefore spent far more time in autophagy and mild ketosis than ours do. We now pay coaches thousands of dollars to teach us to mimic what they got for free. Dental health was another staggering advantage. Paleolithic and Mesolithic teeth are almost perfect. No caries, no malocclusion, no need for orthodontics. Cavities explode only after the adoption of agriculture and sticky starches. Hunter-gatherer jaws are wide, facial bones robust, airways large, sleep apnea is unknown. Modern humans have retreated chins and crowded teeth because our diets are too soft to stimulate proper craniofacial growth. Third, sleep. Modern humans are proud of surviving on 6 hours and an espresso. Ancient humans would have considered that self-harm. Studies of the Hadza, San, and Seaman using actigraphy watches show they sleep an average of 6.9–8.5 hours per night, plus regular naps, with almost zero insomnia. Their sleep architecture is pristine, long, uninterrupted periods of deep and REM sleep. No 3 a.m. cortisol spikes from tomorrow's Zoom call. They experience true darkness. No streetlights, no glowing screens. Melatonin secretion begins at sunset and peaks 10 times higher than in electrified societies. Core body temperature drops lower, growth hormone release is higher, DNA repair during sleep is more efficient. Cancer rates in remaining forager groups are a fraction of ours, and some researchers believe superior melatonin cycling is part of the reason. Temperature variation helped too. Nights on the savannah or in Ice Age Europe could drop dramatically. The resulting cold exposure triggered brown fat activation and metabolic resilience we now try to buy with ice baths. Fourth, the mind. We think we are smarter because we have smartphones. In many ways we are dumber. Hunter-gatherers lived in what neuroscientists call a high sensory bandwidth environment. Every footstep, every broken twig, every subtle shift in wind direction carried meaning. Their attentional systems were constantly trained on real-world patterns. Modern experiments show that even brief periods in nature restore directed attention far better than urban walks. Imagine a lifetime of it. Memory was prodigious. Australian Aboriginal songlines allowed people to navigate hundreds of kilometers using oral maps encoded in verse. Polynesian navigators crossed oceans using only stars, waves, and birds. These feats require hippocampal volume and spatial memory far beyond what most modern humans possess. Their cognition was also free of chronic stress, acute danger, yes, chronic anxiety, no. Cortisol curves were perfect, high when needed, low the rest of the time. Chronic cortisol shrinks the hippocampus and prefrontal cortex. Their stress response sharpened cognition instead of degrading it. And they spent hours every day in what we now call the default mode network. Daydreaming, storytelling, singing, carving. That state is where insight, creativity, and long-term planning happen. We drown it with constant stimulation. Fifth, social life. Loneliness is the modern epidemic. Hunter-gatherer life was the perfect antidote. Band sizes averaged 20–50 people who saw one another every day. Relationships were multiplex. The person who hunted with you also sang with you, shared food with you, raised your children with you, grieved with you. Social support was total. Oxytocin levels in remaining foragers are sky high from constant touch, carrying infants, grooming, sitting fi to fi around fires. Status competition existed, but it was channeled into prestige rather than dominance. The best hunter gained status by giving away meat, not by hoarding it. Generosity was enforced by gossip, ridicule, powerful social tools in small groups. Inequality was minimal. No one could accumulate wealth when everything had to be carried. Children grew up in multi-age playgroups with near-constant adult supervision, yet enormous freedom. No stranger danger, no screens, no scheduled activities, just exploratory play from dawn to dusk. Developmental psychologists now recognize this as the environment human childhood evolved for. 6. Health and longevity. Chronic disease was essentially absent. Heart disease, cancer, stroke, diabetes, Alzheimer's, all rare or unknown before agriculture. When researchers examine thousands of pre-agricultural skeletons, they find atherosclerosis only in a handful of high-status Egyptians eating refined flour and sugar. Everyone else had clean arteries into old age. Osteoporosis did not exist. Bones remained dense because they were constantly loaded in multiple directions. Arthritis was minimal because joints moved through full ranges of motion and inflammation was low. Obesity was impossible on a wild diet with natural fasting cycles. Even infectious load was lower than popularly believed. Small, mobile bands prevented epidemics, no crowded cities, no domesticated animals coughing zoonotics into human lungs. When illness struck, they had sophisticated plant pharmacopoeias. Many modern drugs, aspirin from willow, quinine from cinchona, artemisinin from wormwood, were discovered by watching what traditional peoples used. Those who survived childhood, mortality was high due to trauma and lack of antibiotics, often lived into their 70s or 80s with full physical and mental capacity. We have multiple Paleolithic burials of individuals over 70 with healed fractures and perfect teeth. 7th, mastery of environment. Every forager was a walking encyclopedia of ecology. They could identify hundreds of plants and animals, predict weather from cloud patterns, track game across bare rock, find water by watching bird flight, navigate by stars without instruments. This was not trivia, it was survival. Their toolkit was tiny: hand, axe, spear thrower, fire drill, basket, but their knowledge base was enormous. Modern survival experts who train with remaining foragers come back humbled. One wrong decision in their world meant death. Constant feedback loops sharpened intuition to an almost supernatural degree. 8th, time sovereignty. The single greatest luxury ancient humans possessed was control over their own time. Ethnographies consistently show hunter-gatherers work, forage, hunt, make tools roughly 15-25 hours per week. The rest is leisure, storytelling, music, dance, play, naps, visiting. The economist Marshall Solons famously called them the original affluent society. Affluent not because they had much, but because needed little and had abundant time. No alarm clocks, no bosses, no schedules. If the group felt like moving camp, moved. If wanted to feast for a week after a big kill, feasted. Time was not a resource to be managed. It was simply life unfolding. 9th, meaning in mortality. We fear death and hide from it. They embraced it as part of the cycle. Death was visible. Hunting accidents, childbirth, predation. But it was also meaningful. Bodies were often placed in the earth with care, painted with ochre, buried with tools for the next world. Grief was communal and intense, but so was celebration of life. Because danger was real and present, every day carried weight. There was no postponing joy until retirement. Life was lived now, vividly, surrounded by people who would risk everything for one another. And the data backs this up. When psychologists measure day-to-day positive effect in remaining forager groups, consistently rank among the happiest populations on Earth. Higher than Denmark, higher than Switzerland, higher than anywhere with universal healthcare and Netflix. We gained antibiotics, anesthesia, and spaceflight. We lost almost everything else that makes a human life feel deeply worth living. So why did we ever abandon this life? Because one small genetic mutation allowing adults to digest lactose, plus a few climate shifts at the end of the Ice Age, made farming possible in a few fertile pockets. Farming produced calorie surpluses, which produced population booms, which produced chiefs, kings, armies, writing, metallurgy, cities, and civilization. But the cost was catastrophic. The first farmers were shorter, sicker, more diseased, and worked far harder than their forager neighbors. Life expectancy fell by a decade or more. Teeth rotted, backs broke, inequality exploded. Every skeleton from the Neolithic onward tells the same story. The moment we started controlling nature, nature stopped being kind to us. The advantages I have listed are not nostalgia. They are measurable, biological, archaeological facts. And the most startling fact of all is this: almost all of them are still recoverable, at least in part. You can move variably, eat nose to tail, expose yourself to real darkness and cold, fast, cultivate deep relationships, learn real skills, reclaim your time, face real risk, live inside a story bigger than yourself. The ancients did not know how good had it. We are only now remembering. Thank you for watching this far. If you want to go deeper into any of these topics, full studies, ethnographic accounts, practical experiments, I have compiled everything into a free 80-page companion guide. Link in the description. Download it before YouTube's algorithm decides history is too dangerous for the modern mind. And if this video made you rethink what progress actually means, hit the like button. It helps more people see it. And subscribe for more deep dives into the human past that still shapes our present. I'll see you in the next one.